and welcome to Homo Politicus. This is Enterprise TV. Kingsley Bass is my name. And so we get to the conversation for today, one that has shaken the polity, still shaking the polity, and will definitely shake the polity because this is a policy that concerns food security. So in the quest to address food security, biotechnology has introduced genetically modified organisms, popularly called GMOs, as a solution to increase crop yield, enhance resistance to pests, and improve nutritional content. But not every single person has welcomed this advancement, and many Nigerians remain skeptical, voicing concerns over potential health risk, environmental concerns, and the long-term impact on indigenous agriculture. Today, we sit with an advocate against genetically modified organisms to explore these concerns. And there are several concerns, really. Are GMOs truly a threat to the health and environment? Are they an essential tool for food security in a rapidly growing world? Is a fear of GMOs rooted in science or misinformation? Well, let's get talking today about this particular fundamental conversation. And I'm joined this beautiful day by someone who has been doing a lot of work in terms of educating Nigerians, indeed Africans, against GMO. I'm talking about the Director Center for Food Safety and Agricultural Research. That's the Center for Food Safety and Agricultural Research, Dr. Segun Adebayo. It's popularly called PShegs. PShegs, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me on your program.
Yeah, appreciate it. One of the major concerns around GMO's PShegs would be the health risk, the health concern, which is primary and fundamental in the conversation. What do you have to say for many persons who have not been following the conversation, those who might have been following the conversation too, and still really do not know, what's been happening? Are GMOs linked to long-term health problems, such as allergies, antibiotic resistance, or even chronic diseases? What are your major concerns regarding GMOs?
Thank you. I think you said it all already. They've been linked to allergies. They've been linked to antibiotic resistance. And one of the major concerns that I would like to talk about at this time is based off a research by a Professor Seralini, which was conducted in Europe, where he fed mice GMO corn, GMO maize. He fed the mice for a prolonged period of time, I think about 6 months to 6 to 9 months, and then 2 years. And when he was done with his research, he found out that the mice, the ones that he fed with natural organic maize, they had a normal life. They didn't have tumors. But the ones that he fed with the genetically modified corn, had developed cancerous tumors. And, mice are used in researches because they have very similar genetic configuration with humans, because the similarities are very close. So this research was dismissed by various countries and organizations, which were actually sponsored by the promoters of biotechnology. And it was redacted, it was pulled down, and the people who came against it were asked to do their own research, and they conducted their research, refused to make their findings known under all sorts of requests, freedom of information requests and all. They refused to make their findings known. And Professor Seralini's research was later republished in 2014 and stands till this day. So with that research as a very viable form of proof that GMOs are actually detrimental to human health. There are other researches that I could make available to you. There's a research in America that shows the correlation between GMOs and the deterioration of health in America. You should also know that GMO foods, they don't digest very easily because, they are foreign to the body. The body looks at it and is like, what is this? And many times this food remains in the body and after a while begins to decompose. And then, of late, especially also in Nigeria, we've seen the rise of colon cancer. So you're looking at different examples of how GMOs have played a major role or how they've been proven to be disastrous to the health of humans. I'll round up with this. GMOs, genetically modified maize or seeds. Many times people don't talk about the fact that they go mandatorily with certain agrochemicals, and very popular among the agrochemicals, which are also produced by the same organization that provides the seeds, is glyphosate. It's a Roundup with glyphosate as its active ingredient. Now, if you look this up yourself, in America at the moment, it's almost like a bonanza. Anyone who has cancer and you have proof that you have been using glyphosate on your farm, you are almost entitled to free money from the manufacturers of glyphosate, manufacturers of Roundup, which is Monsanto, which has been bought by Bayer. And if you look at it, very popular article, check it up on the internet. More than 100,000 people has received well over $11 billion from settlement by the manufacturers of Roundup, which are also the same manufacturers of GMOs. And this Roundup agrochemical is a mandatory add-on that goes with the GMO seeds. You can have a successful GMO farm without using this particular chemical. And this chemical, of course, for over 100,000 people to have received more than $11 billion in settlement because they got cancer from using this particular chemical. This is a chemical that has been prescribed by the World Health Organization as a possible carcinogenic substance. And all around the world, many countries have banned it, especially even the home country of Bayer, which is Germany. They have banned glyphosate. Both GMOs and glyphosate are banned in Germany. They are banned across the European Union. Even in Nigeria, one of the reasons why we cannot export some of our food products, especially beans, cowpea, is because of the high level of toxicity with chemicals like glyphosate. Because these are bad chemicals in many of the countries we want to export them to. In about 27 American states, it's banned. It's also banned in Mexico. So why are they banning it if it's just a harmless piece of chemical? It's just a harmless chemical. And this chemical goes mandatorily with your GMOs.
Which brings me to my next question, PShegs. If this chemical, if this genetically modified organisms are banned by certain nations in Europe, some parts of America, how come Nigeria is adopting this? How come we're looking in that direction when parts of the world are looking away from that direction? Do you think there's some political thing playing here? Do you think, like you said, about some persons getting compensated or getting paid for some reasons? Do you think maybe there's something fishy somewhere? Or is this purely the fact that, technology, scientific processes have been conducted by the Nigerian government, and they see that, okay, for certain products like certain crops like maize, cowpea, and the rest, we can still use this? What do you think is at play here?
So the first question is, where did they conduct these scientific researches that would have given them the boldness to believe that they have conducted enough risk assessments to adopt toxic chemicals and dangerous forbidden technology in food and food systems? These are technologies that have been abandoned and been, in fact, is treated with a lot of care in many well-developed countries. So where did they conduct these experiments? We have met with promoters of the biotechnology. We've met with them at different times, both on social media and also even live in the studio, where we had to ask them. There's a very popular video. If you watch, I don't know, I think it's the Human Rights Radio and TV. We had a face-off with them there, and live, they said that they have one of the best laboratories in Africa where they conducted this. And as they were saying it, their colleagues at the office called into the same program. More than 5 of their colleagues called into the program and said that from the studio, we should march to their office and see whether there's anything that looks like a laboratory, you know. So this was their colleagues fact checking them, and their colleagues said that we know those people on air, that those people are the ones that collect money from abroad to push these things in. I'm telling you, these are live scenarios of what we're talking about. I'm not talking about what somebody else experienced. My own experience with these individuals who are promoting biotechnology and biosafety. Now, when you talk about, let's not even go too far. Let's talk about in Africa here. Just last week, I was at the African Union General Assembly, and I happened to attend one of the media briefings with the outgoing Commissioner of Agriculture. And when we asked her about what are the policies that has led to the adoption of GMOs in Africa, she said that she never approved GMOs in Africa, that even in her own home country in Angola, it's not accepted, that she has not betrayed her continent by accepting GMOs. And she said she knows. Now, we are talking about the number one agricultural person on the continent. And then she says that she knows that GMOs are being promoted across Africa by organizations like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that have the money to push down the throat of people to adopt them. This is coming from the number one agricultural person on the continent of Africa. And she says she didn't betray her continent, that in every single argument or every single time it was debated, she opposed GMOs because she knows what they are and what they could do to any society. And she even said that upon retirement, she was going to become an anti-GMO activist on the continent. And that answers your question. Why are we having an adoption of GMOs when even fellow African countries are rejecting it? Countries like Tanzania, they started the confined field trials for telomeres, and they truncated it twice, 2018 and 2021. And now in 2024, moving into 2025, we're seeing the reports that Tanzania is currently 124% food sufficient, having more than enough to even export to other African countries. More so, Tanzania currently holds the position as the second highest producer of maize in Africa, and this is fully organic. Now you're talking about food security. Let's punctuate some of the reasons why the promoters of GMO promotes it. They say it's a move to guarantee food security, and that's a lie. How do you guarantee food security when you do not have proper access to roads, when you haven't stopped post-harvest losses, when you haven't stopped farming security, which are the biggest contribution to food insecurity today in Nigeria? Many of our farmers are being murdered on the farm. They are being kidnapped. They are being shot dead. Farms are being burnt. And this is majorly what is causing food insecurity.
Yeah.
Then who was this? Hello, are you with me?
Yes. A bit of the network lag there, but hopefully you had concluded your thought on that. It's important that we get you to share your thoughts as succinctly as possible, so that again, you're not interrupted, and you clearly make your points, because this is a very vital, very, very vital conversation to have. We're talking the lives of billions of not just Nigerians, billions of Africans as well, of course, Nigerians in millions, and of course, other Africans across the continent and indeed around the world. How this could impact generally health and livelihoods. But let's talk about Nigeria's cultural and agricultural integrity. Could GMOs threaten Nigeria's traditional farming methods and indeed the genetic diversity of indigenous crops? Is there a danger there?
Yes, there is definitely a danger, because, like I would always want to do, let us look at other countries that have banned GMOs and see why they banned it. The loss of their hello. Hello, can you hear me?
All right, fantastic. Yeah, again, network lag there, but thankfully we can hear you now. Please, you want to restate that thought?
I said that in Mexico, for instance, the president of Mexico stated that he banned GMOs because it was leading to the loss of their natural seeds. And let me explain how this works. Given to reproduce for all time. Like when God said, let each plant bring forth yield, seed, producing after its kind. That instruction by God set the world in motion such that every plant would produce seeds till, for all time. And also, if you look at the scriptures, the Bible says that as long as the earth exists, seed time and harvest shall never cease. In other words, from creation, the world was made to produce seeds. Now, biotech companies have come up to say, we can make these seeds more productive. But what they are doing is inserting some of what you call terminator genes. And when they don't even put terminator genes, they program these seeds to have just 2 lifespans, or sometimes 3. Most times it's 2. And then the seed breeder would sell it to the seed companies, and then the seed companies would multiply the seeds and sell it to the farmers. And once the farmers plant it, the yield is sterile. The farmers cannot replant their seeds. And then every planting season, the farmer has to go back to the seed merchants to buy the seeds for their farming. Now, these sterile crops, or these genetically modified crops, can also pollinate through open air pollination. So if you have a natural farm not so far away from where the GMO farms are, the GMO farms will cross-pollinate with your natural farms and make your natural farm, your organic farm, sterile. And then the organic farm begins to take on the characteristics of the GMO farm. In other words, the organic farm begins to grow sterile seeds. And that means that you're losing your natural seeds. After a while, you will only have to see that crop when you buy the seeds from the manufacturers. And this is why in countries like Russia, you're considered a bioterrorist if you begin to farm genetically modified crops. In Ecuador, when Ecuador found out what we're actually playing into, Ecuador didn't just disable their GMO program, their biotech program. They burnt all their GMO farms to ensure that they don't cross-pollinate with the natural variants and lead to a loss of the natural heirloom. And this is also majorly why Mexico banned it. So yes, to answer your question, it will lead to your biodiversity loss of your natural variants of the same GMO crops.
So going by what you have said, there is so much danger for farms in terms of agricultural, organic agricultural practices in Nigeria, and indeed the continent. If we don't tackle this very quickly, PShegs, we've got to go. But of course, let's talk solutions. We've talked about the problems. We've identified the problems, the dangers to, as you've mentioned. What's the solution then? We're budgeting so much in terms of agriculture. In fact, technology continues to be at the forefront of policy making or policy implementation and the rest, and this would continue. At what point do we need to sit back to say, as a country, let's not just adopt something because some persons, some organizations have recommended those? Can we do our research ourselves and be sure that this is good for our people and look beyond immediate profit or the rest? What should the federal government of Nigeria, and indeed governments across the continent, be doing right now regarding this subject matter?
All right, thank you. I'm just going to itemize them so we can follow them. Number one, we need to ban the introduction of any other GMO crop. Number two, we need to place a moratorium on the distribution of all current GMO seeds in Nigeria. We should stop the distribution of GMO seeds in Nigeria. Number three, every GMO farm in Nigeria should be bought. Number four, we need to discontinue the agency responsible for promoting biotech in Nigeria. I think the ICPC should be involved in auditing that organization. The FCCPC should also get involved, because there are people in that organization that are not only working for the federal government, but also active members and functioning, and they hold large offices, big portfolio in some of the organizations from outside the country that have been set up to promote biotechnology in Nigeria. They need to be investigated. And also, the NBMA, the National Biosafety Management Agency, the NBMA Act of 2015, it needs to be repealed, and also it needs to be amended. And the NAFDA, which are the promoters of biotechnology in Nigeria, should be removed from their board and replaced with FCCPC. Now, that said, this solves the problem of the GMOs we have in Nigeria. And finally, on this note, GMOs should be fully banned in Nigeria. All approvals given, all licenses given should be immediately revoked and withdrawn, both for importation and for cultivation. Well, after we ban these things, the next thing, we need to ban the use of glyphosate and atrazine and other dangerous chemicals in Nigeria. Next, we need to immediately begin to look into the funding of organizations that have promoted biotechnology, organizations that have supported farm insecurity in this country. We need to look into those organizations, because we find that many of the areas that have been under attack by insurgents, bandits, terrorism, and co, and major farming regions. For instance, December into January last year, Mangu local government in Plateau State was under severe attack. Over 436,000 metric tons of maize was destroyed. Organic maize was destroyed. And most of the farms, the organic maize farms in Mangu, were destroyed also. And shortly after, GMO maize was brought up as the solution to the problem. So we need to investigate the source of these attacks. We've seen a lot of information on social media over the past 2 weeks, not necessarily social media, but these are headed by lawmakers in America alleging of terrorism sponsorship in Africa. And we need to look very critically into all of these things. And of course, when we begin looking at that, we now start looking at other solutions to provide food security, such as, number one, we stop post-harvest losses. You make provisions for cold storage for farmers. We look at access to roads to major farming areas. We look at disputes and organic fertilizers for farmers, and look at providing aids, and that's from the government, not the federal government, mechanizing farming for our farmers, and of course, lastly, which is not the least but most important, is farm security. Because without guaranteeing the farmers their security, both the farmers and also their farm security, you will not have the active participation of farmers in that industry. Thank you.
PShegs, we want to thank you so much for being a part of the show today and for shedding light on this subject matter. Indeed, this is something that we need to continue to follow, continue to track the conversation, and have further thought and comment as research continues to unfold regarding this particular subject matter, genetically modified organisms, because this has, we know, it's central to health and to the well-being of millions, if not billions, of people around the world. PShegs, again, I would like to thank you so much for being on the program. PShegs happens to be the director at a center for research.
The deputy director.
We appreciate you, PShegs. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, have a fantastic one, and indeed we'll continue to have this conversation. As mentioned, Kingsley Bass is my name. That's Homo Politicus today. Let the conversation continue in the comment section. I'll be reading, and don't stop texting and don't stop commenting. Bye for now.